Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I am doing something a little bit different. I will be doing digital art, which I haven't done in a while actually, a full finished piece. So it's really exciting. Many thanks to Clip Studio Paint for sponsoring today's video. I already did another video on how I use it to help with my traditional paintings, and I will be leaving the link to that in the description. Today I am doing a full digital artwork, and I started by adding in my paper texture. This one is just my own watercolor paper that I had scanned. I added it in as a pattern, and doing that automatically repeats that pattern and scales it to fit your canvas. You can even change the pattern in which the texture is repeated and choose which one feels more organic to you. So that's just so great. You can also see that my workspace looks, I think, pretty simple, especially with a program that is so feature packed. I think what I have in my workspace is pretty simple and is what works best for me. Over here I only have the things that I regularly use. All the things that I don't use, I just don't have it in my workspace. So I think, especially coming from being a traditional artist, this feature really makes digital art be less scary for me. So I have my layers on top. Under that I have my brush tools, and most importantly I also have my color wheel, and they're all neatly stacked on the side so I can use my left hand to control them while I use my right hand to draw. And also I think my approach to the actual painting process for this is very similar to my traditional paintings, where I started with my sketch on one layer so I can get the proportions and the basic values planned out before I start. And then after that I did the first layers of the actual painting and divided that into elements. So I have one layer for my background and another one for the actual subject. At the end I only had one layer for all of my background, for my whole background, because it is just simple. But I did add a few more layers for the subject, and especially when I was painting in her face, trying to get the lighting right. And those are just divided into layers in the same way that I would layer my actual paintings. So when I would wait for something to dry while I'm painting with gouache, I just do that in this case with another layer. So just basically the brushstrokes and the paintings that I don't want to touch, I separate into layers. What I'm really just doing is just cutting down that drying time. And I think in that way, digital painting is really fast, because not just with the drying time, because I don't have to mix in my colors physically. So I really like that. It was really fun to be able to do the whole painting from the planning stage all the way to when it's done in one place. And especially working without a reference photo, sometimes that gets really tricky. Usually when I haven't had the lighting and the color planning done beforehand, I would use a little mock-up before I do it on my final piece. But for this one, what I did have was a little bit of a mock-up, but that I also did with Clip Studio Paint, just so I can have something like a guide for the video. But usually with my traditional paintings that I'm doing from scratch, I would have to go through a lot of trial and error for me to even figure out what I want to do with the lighting and the colors, so it's really nice to just have it in one go for this painting. A little bit off topic, but I really think that digital painting has helped me so much with learning to color mix, and it's something that I haven't thought about before. But when you pick different tones and shades to a color, it kind of gets hard to figure out what the base color is for that. Like the color I always called as green, which I use a lot for my shadows. I found out while doing this piece is actually a very dull grayish yellow, and that it only looks green because I have it next to my red and other really warm colors. So it helps you be more aware of where the colors come from, because in a color wheel you get to see the same color in different saturation levels, so you kind of get to see what the base color is. So I haven't really thought about that before, but I think it really helps because at the same time as I was starting out with painting a couple of years ago, I also dabbled in digital art, so I think that really helps a lot. I haven't thought about it, but maybe a good exercise in color mixing and learning to recognize your colors is actually by getting a color picker or just working with a digital color wheel like this. I think it really helps, and I think it might be a game changer. This whole painting was inspired by the form of the Filipiniana gown with its bell-shaped sleeves, which I just really love the look of. It was really important for me to get the silhouette of them, and that's why the lighting that's going on her is coming from above, so it keeps most of her face in shadow, but her dress be in the light. So I also did a very bright sort of backlight to show more of the silhouette of her neck and what it looks like next to the sleeves. Those were all of the things that I wanted to bring attention to this piece. So even though I did spend a lot of the time on her face, it was more so I can make it look nice, but also still keep it in shadow and not overpower the rest of the painting. It's just really fun and nice not to worry about just mundane things that come with traditional paintings, like waiting for layers to dry, and also just some of the messy things that comes with working with paint. And even though I will always enjoy traditional art, I think it was just a nice change in pace to not have all of the inconveniences that come with it. And I think you can see a lot of similarities to my process with this one and my video called Full Gouache Painting Process Walkthrough or something, where I did the initial sketch, and then I added more layers with paint on top before I finalized her face with more pencils and then covering that with more paint. I think it's very similar to how I did this one. The only thing that I have always felt that is scary with digital art is because there's just so many things that you can do, that I'm always tempted to do too much to a painting and end up with a concept that is too hard for me to execute. So I think what I really learned with this one was that your digital artworks don't have to be so different from your traditional paintings, and the process doesn't have to be complicated, and that they can also just go hand in hand. And then right before this whole thing ended, I put a rough paper texture. This one was preloaded with the app, and you don't have to scan your own paper. There are paper textures that are included in the app, so I just added that in as the top layers, so it covers the whole painting up until that point. And then after that, I added a different layer on top and used a very textured brush to do the very final finishing details, so that those brush strokes intentionally stand out and have more texture than the rest of the painting. So I painted in some of the strands of her hair and some parts of her face. But more importantly, I added in more texture to her dress to sort of echo the kind of fabric that is normally used for dresses like this, and it's a little bit rough because I really wanted those textures to stand out from the rest of the painting. That is it for this whole video. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you to my patrons, you guys are the best. If you guys are interested in supporting me even more than just by watching my videos, I will be linking my Patreon in the description also. Thank you guys for watching, and I will be seeing you again soon.